So, have you been following the trend recently
Yes.
of people noticing?
I've been getting a bit hot under the collar about it, actually. Overheated about it.
People have been noticing that the weather maps that they're being presented with are slightly apocalyptic, actually. And the BBC actually got wind of this because enough people were complaining on social media, like, hang on, we're actually not all dying in an inferno.
I've had people texting me from Cornwall saying, I don't know what's going on in London, but it's so cold down here in July.
Yes.
We've had to put the heating on.
Yes. Well,
Can we have some heat, please?
Yeah, we had. I mean, I hear there's been a heat wave in the Mediterranean, which good for them because we haven't been getting that.
I interrupt this segment to bring you an important message about this stuff, the dollar. Not going so well, is it? Inflation is out of control and debt is even more out of control. In fact, the US government is on the verge of spending $1 trillion a year just servicing its debt. It spends about $6.6 trillion and it only collects about $4.6 trillion in revenues. So you can see that this situation is rapidly taking a turn for the worse. You might want to consider some gold and silver. And that is why that we've done a partnership deal with Goldco and we've created LotusEatersGold.com. Go and check that out. It's an offer for our American viewers. You can transfer a proportion of your IRA into this, and if you do so, you're going to get some of this lovely stuff, some bonus silver thrown in on top, up to $10,000. Or you can even take delivery of the physical gold to your home address if you prefer. So if you want money that goes clang when you put it down, check out LotusEatersGold.com.
And it's just
everyone wants to go on holiday there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's summer, isn't it?
Exactly. Crazy. This is why people go on holiday to the Mediterranean, because it becomes nice and sunny.
It's not going to rain, probably.
Yes, and I mean it would have been less impactful had the weather in the UK not been so bad. I think it'd been less of a contrast.
And these wildfires, it's just...
Well, I'll talk about all of that in a minute, in fact. But before we begin, go over and read this latest article by Simon Webb, one of our favorite historians, who's just talking about how climate change has become a religion for young atheists. Because it's not the entire religion itself, but there's always an apocalyptic element to the religions. There comes an end of days where the sin of mankind shall be washed away by a wrathful God. And that's what climate change actually is. It's a secular version of this. And I'm not saying that it's not man-made or anything like that. I don't know. I'm no expert on climate change. But the narrative as well, man has done this.
Bit of it might be man-made.
I could believe some of it is.
But I mean, the IPCC is only allowed to look at the anthropogenic part, though.
Yeah,
and that might be 5-10% of the warming might be down.
I would be shocked if it was only one thing that was causing.
Somebody tweeted out to me or text me the other day. It's amazing. As humans, we can't find a solution to the homeless, but we can raise the temperature of the world.
Yeah, and if we can't even figure out what gender belongs in which bathroom, how are we going to save the planet? Anyway. So as we were saying, the weather for the past month or so has been terrible. This is just recent weather in Britain for the past few days. But if you go back literally for the last month, it's been non-stop rain. It's been awful. As you can see, like highs of 15, lows of 14. There was one day with a high of 21. 21
sweltering.
Degrees. I know, boiling. Lows of 13, lows of 12, lows of 11 there.
It was really cold at some nights.
Like it's literally
even in London, it was cold.
November weather. Yeah. We've been getting in the middle of July, which has been really peculiar. And so people noticed that this didn't really correlate with the BBC maps. Sorry, what? So orange, like deeper orange, like sorry, how is that at 10 or 11 degrees, like fiery orange when we've had such terrible weather, right? Another person pointed out, look, they've got that a yellow is 18 degrees in Ireland. Is it yellow? Man, that's like nearly white hot, isn't it? No wonder people like looking at this going, hang on a second, I don't really believe this, right? And so I just looked at like the hottest and the lowest months. So we're being told that July was the hottest month ever. And maybe around the world, maybe on the equator, I don't know. But it's not really very relevant to us living in the Northern Hemisphere, where it's definitely not been the hottest. We're not feeling in England, basically. And of course, Antonio Guterres of the United Nations Secretary General was like, Global boiling. It's global boiling, you see. Climate change is
He
here.
flew there in his private jet.
He did. Yeah, of course he did. But he says climate change is here. It is terrifying. It is just the beginning. It is still possible to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 C above pre-industrial levels and avoid the very worst of climate change, but only with dramatic, immediate climate action.
But of course, it's because he works for the UN. He doesn't pay tax.
No.
He's also got diplomatic immunity. So
Yes.
even if he told outright stinking fibs, you couldn't prosecute him for anything.
No.
He can say what he wants.
And it's weird how
Unaccountable.
It's weird how the demand is always give us more political power, give us more political power, give us more political power. And I'm very reluctant to do that, even if that means we're going to have to install air conditioning, which seems to be the threat that we're living under. Because as far as I can tell, that's what's going to happen. But anyway, so the BBC got wind of people saying, hang on a second, your maps seem ridiculous. And so they gave us this chart. That's a weird chart. Because if you look at that, now, the question of colour is something that's unique to each individual. As in, where do you perceive one colour becomes another? But I can't help but notice that 3 to 4 degrees Celsius is green, and 7 to 8 is grass green. 9 to 10 is a very light green, and then 10 to 11 is yellow. 10 to 11 degrees Celsius. Really, that's yellow, is it?
Yeah.
That's not a comfortable temperature. I put my coat on.
Well,
like you would think that
as the naked apes we are.
Yeah.
I mean, even at these temperatures, without clothes and heating in the winter, we couldn't survive at these latitudes.
No, absolutely not.
We would have to live at the equator.
Yes, we would. And so, but this is the thing. Why put the sort of grass green, the sort of color that makes you think of comfort, makes you think of decency and security, and all these nice things that we always, green is the color of goodness to humans. Why put that at 7 to 8 degrees Celsius?
Anything above that, and we're in the danger zone, really.
That's what, literally, 11 to 12, it's yellow. That's a warning color. 15, 16, 21 to 24, we're getting into the red. It's in the red.
We're in the red.
A nice summer's day.
Peaking out for about an hour and a half, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
I always said about the weather in the UK, if you don't like it, wait 20 minutes.
Exactly. But this is the thing, 30 to 35. So now you've gone on holiday to the Mediterranean. You're on your summer holiday, blood red.
Well, you're looking forward
red.
for an opportunity to get some sun cream out and get some vitamin D.
Right? Like the unbelievable drama of this color scale is just absurd. Like, this is just ridiculous. But they say, oh, well, we haven't like changed this for greater impact. It's been this way since 2017. Is that right? So what you're saying is in 2017 you changed it for greater impact.
Yes.
Like, that's fine. But look at this. Like, 3 to 4 is still in green. 1 to 2 is the very lightest of blue, and 0 to 2 is like finally a blue color. It's like, sorry, it's not cold. Like which you would think a solid blue color would represent a
0
cold.
to -2.
Yeah, 0 to -2 is where they first start going, yeah, well, that's cold.
And of course, the number of deaths due to cold in our country are something like 20 times the number from heat.
Oh yeah, and this is something.
So if it were warmer, which is, I think there's some debate whether
fewer people would die of the cold. Yes,
and also if you look back through our history, I mean, the Romano warm period when they were growing grapes at Hadrian's Wall and making wine was a height of civilization.
Yep. And then you had the sort of mini ice age in which the Thames froze over,
and this carbon dioxide business,
I don't know
what percentage of the atmosphere is actually carbon dioxide.
Something like 16% or something, isn't it? I don't know.
No, it's 325 parts per million.
Oh, is it?
It's 0.032 of 1%.
Right.
And they're saying if it got to 0.04, it's all over.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Well, but the optimum plant growth is around about 600.
Oh, is it?
We could have 30%. Well, they let people with commercial greenhouses pump extra CO2 in to increase crop production by 30%, right. And it also reduces pathogens.
You're far better informed on this.
So you can get 30% extra yield, and they let them pump extra carbon dioxide into the greenhouses, somewhere between 600 parts per million, so 0.06% to 1,200.
See, I have no
So, I
idea
mean,
about any of that.
you said 16%. I mean,
I
you
don't
just
know.
you
I
just
don't know.
got that wrong by a factor of.
But this is I'm totally uneducated on this. What I am
like
good at,
54 times wrong.
that's fine.
But that's for the message you've been given. Is it? Well, we've got loads of this carbon dioxide.
I
You realise that below
have no idea.
below 150 parts per million, all plants die and the planet's finished.
No idea. I'm the first to say I'm the least educated person in the world on this subject. Right?
But I mean, CO2 is so important.
I don't.
I mean,
I'm sure it is.
We're looking at spending somewhere between low estimate £1 trillion to hit net zero. It'll be over 4 trillion.
Yeah.
4,000 billion pounds, which we don't have.
Yeah.
To do something where the UK is less than 1% of the world emissions at the same time as China can double its emissions. So all these wind turbines, the solar panels and the electric cars that are coming over here to save the planet are all being manufactured in China using fossil fuels.
They can't be
because they're cheap.
either, can they?
No.
Yeah.
And they blow up.
Anyway, so the thing I'm good at is just debunking BBC propaganda. And I think that this obviously seems like propaganda to me because, I mean, what they're saying is that the average winter temperature is, if you look at it, 1 to 2, which is the average winter temperature in the UK, which I confirmed, is it's at the very end of the green spectrum. It's kind of a turquoisey green. And I just find that really weird. Why would you put the average winter temperature as the sort of color that is not objectionable, right? I mean, that to me, this is baffling because, I mean, like the average temperature that you're supposed to have indoors for, say, an elderly person is like 20 degrees to make sure that they don't get ill and don't have various problems. So why would that not be the baseline you would start for the green color and then go out from the purported comfortable temperature for a human being?
I think it's fair to say it's all propaganda, isn't it?
Yes, but that's exactly.
And we're terrifying the young people who've bought into all this, and they're being pumped full of it in schools as well, along with the transitioning and the sex education. Yep, it's got to stop.
Yeah, it does.
I'm actually in contact with some very senior climatologists, and interestingly, they tell me that, I mean, they've got sensors all over the world that are feeding back temperature all the time. And they used to get paid for this data, and they won't get paid for that data anymore because, unfortunately, the data doesn't fit the narrative.
Oh, right.
And now can only get paid for models, and they've got to be models that fit the narrative.
Let's go on to that, actually, right? So they've been saying, well, we've got record temperatures verified. This was in when was this? I do have it written down. Never mind, we'll skip that. Right, so recently they've been complaining, well, hang on a second. There are wildfires in the Mediterranean. Isn't this proof of global boiling? Not really. Actually.
Always happens.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the point, yeah. If I can get the Greece one, I mean, this happens literally like every
year,
other year.
And it's also the part of the regeneration of the vegetation.
It's totally normal. It happens all the time.
Well, my parents lived in Menorca in Spain for 30 years. I mean, they used to regularly have wildfires on the island.
Yeah.
And it's not particularly warm.
And that's when they're not being started by people who deliberately start them. As the climate change minister for Greece says, 667 fires had erupted, and the vast majority, quote, were caused by human hands. They were either arsons, by criminal negligence, or by intention. And in fact, the Wall Street Journal published an article about this, saying, actually, this hasn't been the case. The percentage of the globe that has been set on fire each year has actually been declining since 2001.
Not according to the BBC.
Well, yes.
Where's the BBC Verify unit when you really need it?
They're lying about me.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
It's weird.
Too busy making things up.
Yeah, I've never been to Totnes twice. I've been once. I don't know why the BBC said I went twice.
Have they apologised?
Not yet, no.
I had to apologise to Farage.
I know.
Where was the BBC Verify unit over all that as well?
Great question. It's almost like it's a political propaganda arm.
Who would think it?
But just a quick thing here. They point out that the data is unequivocal. Since the early 2000s, when 3% of the world's land caught fire, the area burned annually has trended downwards. In 2022, it's trended down to a new low of 2.2% of burned.
And that goes along with all the figures for extreme weather, tornadoes, hurricanes, massive storms, big winds. all that happens is that there's less happening than there were 30, 40, 50 years ago, but they're more reported on the television.
Well,
It's all in the messaging and the marketing.
That's exactly what they're saying. Instead, the media acts as if the world is ablaze. Completely true. I mean, there have always been wildfires. There are fewer wildfires now.
Biggest power the BBC and the mainstream media have, it's actually is deciding what's the news, and they've decided that this is the news.
Yes.
So therefore, it's exceptional.
Yeah.
And the biggest power is the power of omission. And whatever I send them as the news, like the fact that we've made some discoveries about some medical treatments, they don't want to know about it.
No. But yeah, so I thought we'd do a quick summary of this. Basically, everyone at least is aware.
Didn't believe any of that stuff, but they were put on the people are cancelling their summer holidays because it's too hot in the middle.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
That did make me chuckle.
Come on, that's why people go. That's the entire point. I want to swim in a warm ocean.
I bet you they had more bookings. Those last few seats went with it. Oh, it's really hot out there.
Honestly.
Oh, that's it. I've got to go.
But you can feel the kind of desperation on this propaganda, right? It's like, oh no, the weather's nice in the Mediterranean. Are you sure you want to go? Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely not going to rain all week.
You're going to get clear skies. Yeah.
Picnic on the beach every day. Not worry about it.
Yeah. But what? Just going back to the thing. Where's the mapping? Right. These maps, I like. People are totally on point by pointing out that this is just awful. Because I mean, like you can see like Switzerland there in the Alps, where it's the sort of greenish color. Okay, well it's 10 degrees in the Alps.
There's still snow there though.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be relatively chilly for summer, but it's such an obvious attempt to make people afraid of the outdoors. I hate it. I really hate this sort of stuff. It's just so dishonest, and everyone can see it. Everyone can see
good.
it. You know?
Good. I hope everyone can see it.
Well, they can.
To be honest, I don't watch the BBC.
No, I don't.
From one month to another.
No, I don't. But I follow their BBC weather on Twitter. Like it's been coming up on my feed, and I'm just looking at all of the responses underneath it. And
I have tweeted a bit of this, and we did a comparison of 2017. It was a German map from 2017 and now, and it was.
And the temperatures are hotter, but it's just the map of the terrain.
It was green.
Yeah, it's all green. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm glad. Honestly, I'm really glad that there are so many people in the public who are just not taking this, because this, and the BBC's, they put this article out, say, well, this is how we do it, and that's just normal, and wherever.
Well, since 2017, when we decided to adopt this new system.
Yeah, these, because I mean, you can see, like, they know that people are like, hang on a second, this is not representative. I mean, look at that one in 2023 where it's 2021 and it's yellow and orange. They are unappealing colours.
Well, it looks like you couldn't live there.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like you could.
It's uninhabitable.
Whereas in fact, everyone was having a nice sunny afternoon.
Yeah,
and they're doing it on purpose. And it's
barbecues.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's going for barbecues. But this continual push to make you afraid. Like, I mean, Gutierrez literally said, we should be afraid.
But they want people to give up all hope, and unfortunately, and I've tested this out with psychologists. Younger people have got less resistance to this level of propaganda. They're more prone to it because they don't have the life experience to realise.
They don't have a point of reference.
And also that everything in the newspapers and on the television isn't necessarily, all the government says isn't necessarily the truth.
And in fact, they've got a vested
interest. So now we've got to a situation now where 1 in 3 of our under 25s thinks that it's not worth getting married and having children because the whole world's going to burn up in 10 years. Well,
yeah, I don't think it is.
Well, it might be a nuclear war if we don't stop Mr. Biden and Mr. Sunak, but I can guarantee it won't be because of global warming.
Yes, I am very skeptical that a 1.5 degrees C increase in temperature worldwide is going to destroy anything.
And also, as we point out, a bit more carbon dioxide would increase food production, which is always helpful.
Well, you would think so, but if you were, say, the Dutch government.
Well, you've actually got a regreening of the planet. You understand? So, this very small amount of carbon dioxide, 325 parts per million in the atmosphere, 0.032% of the atmosphere. To make plants grow, you need water. So you have transpiration through the roots, and the stomata underneath the leaves open to let the carbon dioxide in. They need that in there with the water to make the sugars. And obviously, the more carbon dioxide about, the less open the stomata need to be. Therefore, you lose less water because the top of the leaves are generally waxed, aren't they?
I have no idea.
They are.
I'll take your word.
So you
for it.
lose most of the water out of the stomata.
Right.
Wait, and they're open to let the carbon dioxide in. Well, if you don't have to open the stomata underneath the leaves as much to get the carbon dioxide, because there's more carbon dioxide,
Mhm.
you lose less water. That then means that parts of the ground around the Sahara Desert, which don't get enough rainfall normally for plants, suddenly plants don't need as much rainfall because they don't have to open the stomata so much. So what you're actually seeing is the regreening. There's more greening around the planet
Hmm.
because of the extra CO2. Because suddenly areas with lower water now can sustain plant life.
I had no idea about any of that.
That's all science. That's 100% correct. So if with higher CO2 levels, we'll have more areas of the planet that currently haven't got plant life will have plant life and be able to support it on lower rainfall.
There's a NASA study that John's got up,
there we
which
go.
reinforces exactly what you're saying.
There you
Carbon
go.
dioxide fertilization greening the earth, says one study. Can
There
we
you
just
go.
get that map up, John? Yeah. So there we go.
Yeah.
No, and
So
that's
we're greener than
2016.
we've ever been.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
Oh, I am too. Yeah. And I'm all for going on holiday to nice sunny places because I live in England.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Contemplation series, this episode on right-wing environmentalism. If you'd like to find out what else has been put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.